Remember Barnes and Noble, that brand that we thought Amazon killed a couple of decades ago? It's still kicking. And Barnes and Noble in the New York Times this week came out with a new brand plan. And their brand plan is basically to say that every Barnes and Noble store will embody the local experience of book selling in that market. In the article, the CEO of Barnes and Noble comes out himself and says, brand strategy people think this is crazy because all of our stores are going to be different from each other. It's going to be a completely varied brand experience. It's a really interesting approach. And I think it gets to the essence of kind of what a brand's about and how much latitude it has. And we wanted to talk about what we think about this Barnes and Noble plan. What do you think?
In terms of the core concept, that they might be able to take local cues and create variability at a local level in order to create more of a connected feel to the local community of readers and book lovers. Cool idea. Nothing wrong with that. We've seen an increase in the amount of variability that brands can have in their storylines and the way that they communicate and relate to the public, and that works. There are some problems, but I think before we go into what I think are some of the challenges, I think the concept that a brand can operate across multiple storylines and that we, the public, can follow them, nothing wrong with that. And Matt, I think you saw that in your work with Geico in the past.
When I was at the Martin Agency here in Richmond, we worked with Geico for 20 years, and I had the pleasure of working with them during that time. And the whole idea of Geico was to kind of reset the way people thought about the boundaries of a brand, where if you think 25 years ago, the boundaries of the brand were defined by a message that you just pounded into somebody's head until they could spit it back to you in a focus group. And Geico said, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about multiple things, deliver multiple messages in the form of multiple campaigns at the same time, which kind of made branding people go, oh my God, you can't do that. That's not right. What we realized is the boundary of the brand isn't the message, it's actually the personality. So you can know a Geico ad when you see it, and it can be talking about service or 24/7 access or savings or whatever they want to do. And it can be a caveman, or it can be a gecko, or it can be any number of things, as long as it feels like Geico. So that personality allowed Geico to communicate multiple things in lots of different ways, as long as you didn't violate the personality of the brand. And I think that if you follow that example as it relates to Barnes and Noble, they're maybe saying, okay, we're going to reset the boundary of the brand in this category so that it's not about a consistent experience where you walk in and the colors are the same and the books are displayed the same way, whether you're in Wichita or in Tampa. They're saying the essence of the book selling experience at a retail level should reflect what happens in the local market. And we want to do that. So they actually have a unifying brand idea here, which is we're going to reflect the local book selling experience in each market we're in. And all the Barnes and Nobles that you go into are going to feel like that. That's a unifying brand idea, even though it might be executed in what feels like an inconsistent way. And I think that's doable. That, to me, doesn't violate the basic tenets of branding. It challenges them, but it might push them in a new way.
Absolutely. I think that's even more true if they understand the personality and they understand the customer. And I think Barnes & Noble hasn't always understood their customer. The reader community is a connected one. It's people who love to read, who buy books on a regular basis, who might belong to a book club, who write reviews on things like Goodreads, who, if they're on a long trip, they're going to be listening to Audible so that they can continue to read, who know the difference in voice between Truman Capote and Jane Austen. That is the core customer of any bookstore and the core customer of Barnes & Noble. I think they've forgotten about that from time to time throughout the years. You've been able to go into that store and it's been filled with sometimes junky toys and a mishmash of stuff. If they are aligning that freedom of local operation and local style with an understanding that the reason that's important is because we're reaching and connecting to a community of people who care about books, who care about literature, and who aren't comfortable getting their information from a meme or an influencer on TikTok, then I think that could be very successful.
So to me, there's an issue of principle as it relates to brand strategy, which is, do we think Barnes & Noble, by doing this, is violating some basic tenet of brand strategy? My opinion is no. I actually think it's pretty cool, which is that what they're saying is, we can have a unifying promise that people connect to this brand. And in fulfilling that unifying promise, the experience may vary in interesting ways. So the definition of a brand for Barnes & Noble is not mindless consistency, because I think that's actually a pretty shallow definition of a brand. It's making a unifying promise. And in this case, the unifying promise is no matter what market you go into, the Barnes & Noble experience is going to reflect the book selling culture in that market. That's pretty cool. Can they actually pull this off? I don't know if this brand can do this.
Couldn't agree with you more. Big lessons here for any brand. Loosen up the reins a little bit. It's okay to give some permission for creativity to the brand and not see it as a set of ironclad rules for how the experience must be delivered. As long as you understand who the target audience is and you understand who your personality is in the equation, so that anything that you do, any expression, is consistent with that personality, then you can do it.